Hey guys, today we're going to be changing out the front shock on a 96 Dodge Ram. It's a 3/4 ton truck, but this is the same for half tons, 1 tons, and your 94 through 2002, I believe. It'll all be the same basic process. I'll show you real quick over here. That's the top mounting bracket for the driver's side. Process is exactly the same. Just watch out for your brake assembly here, or your brake fluid assembly. And I always recommend put a towel over the top of your positive connection. If you want to do both, but just cover up your battery, because as you're hitting that with a wrench or a socket, you don't want your ratchet hitting that and grounding out your battery and frying all your wiring. That's never fun. So remember, just keep an eye on that, and we'll get to work on the other side. Here you can see we have some of the tools we're going to need. A pair of vice grips to help remove the old shock, nice torque wrench, some 1/2-inch socket extenders, your 13/16 for the lower mounting bolt on the shock. This one here is for the upper mounting bracket of the shock. Oops. This is the new shock. This is a Monroe gas shock. It's just what I use. There's 100 different kinds out there. This is what everything will come in. I'll show you how to assemble all that a little bit later, but first we've got to get the truck up. You're going to need at least one jack stand. A jack, I have a couple blocks on there because my jack doesn't quite reach. This is the side of the truck. First we've got to remove that front tire. This is a look at the top of the shock. This is where you're going to put the vice grips right here, and then this whole bracket here will come out with the shock attached, or unattached, however you prefer to do it. Probably be easier just to remove it, but let's get the jack underneath there and we'll get started. Real quick, I almost forgot one thing I like to do. This is a PB Blaster. It's really good stuff. Some people like WD-40 or liquid wrench to do this, but before you start, you want to just go ahead and hit all of the bolts that you're going to be taking out. This way they have a good amount of time to soak in there really well, and you're not fighting it too much. And we'll get that one once we get the tire off, because it's kind of a pain. This is just a view underneath the truck where I'm putting the jack. It's going to go right there on that support arm. There's a few other places you can put it. I like that because it's one of the lowest spots. As far as the jack stand, they say to put it on the frame rails right there, but if you're right up there, but if your jack doesn't quite reach, I have a snowplow mount on the front of my truck, and once I get it up there, that's where she'll sit, just right there, and that holds it pretty well. But we'll get this thing jacked up and then start taking the tire off. Right now we got the tire still on the ground, but the jack's set underneath it. A little bit of weight on it, but not too much. I got my 4-way tire iron here. We're going to use this to get off all 8 of our lug nuts there. You want to do this before you get the tire off, otherwise your tire will just free spin, because when you have the parking brake engaged, it's just your rear tires that are parked. So I'm assuming you all know how to use a tire iron. Just goes on like that, and lefty-loosey. Takes them right off. Now that you got the tire off and your jack stand supporting the vehicle, you want to get down in here. I don't know if you really see it all that well, but there's a nut right down in there. That's what you're going to want to spray. Sorry. Get you in there. Right down there. That nut there is what you want to spray with your PB Blaster. Almost out. Right there. That's the nut you want to spray with the PB Blaster, so it'll loosen up nicely. I kind of hit everything else. Hit the other side of the bolt. This way it'll free up as well. There's the old shock, as you can see. And we'll start by pulling off that bracket there. Set that down. Something easy you can do too to get yourself some more room in here, because you got the intake here. That just pops right out. Pops right off of there. I'm going to need 2 hands, so I'll have to put you down, but we'll come back to that. Alright, as you can see, we now have the tire removed. Still got the jack underneath. Like I said earlier, that's where I put the jack stand. Make sure it's nice and centered in there. I got it fully extended because that falls a lot once you take it off of the shock. The shock just pushes it right down. So when you let it go, you want to let it go nice and easy. This way it doesn't fall on you. It doesn't break your jack stand or anything like that. And if anything slips, you want to just shut it real quick. But looks like that'll do the trick. And we'll carry on. We are. Got that removed, sitting up there on the dash right now, on the window. Just pops right out of there. Just squeeze the two ends of that and it'll slide right out. For this part, you're going to want a pair of vice grips or just some gripping pliers. It don't really matter the brand. I'm going to tighten them down, get them on this. Try to get your spark plug wires in there. Hard to do one handed. You're going to get it on there. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then for this one, it's a 3/4 inch. Could vary depending on the shock you bought originally. Just put it on there, and it's going to free spin for a second. But you're going to hold onto those vice grips and loosen that bad boy up. Alright, and sometimes that's just not want to come off. As you can see, my pliers did a real number on that. So we'll start by removing those 3 bolts, and this entire bracket will come out. And we'll worry about that when we can actually get some muscle on it. So for now, you're going to want grab your 15mm socket. That just happens to be what size mine are. You're going to need some good extension. That's the one there. We'll come back over here, and we'll get that bolt taken off. All right, now that we have the upper bolts pulled out, the shock is now fully extended. Really no pressure on it anymore, so now everything's being held with the coil spring. Now we need to remove the bolt right there, that guy. I already did the other side. He's a bit of a pain. He actually broke 3 of my sockets, so kind of searched around to find a different way to do it, and a 4-way tire iron is actually what did the trick on the other one. Worked pretty good. All I did, like I said, mine's 13/16, so I'll just throw that on there, and then once you got it like that, I grab a little cheater bar, slip it on there, and then loosen it up. It's going to take some force. Some people recommend heat, others recommend freeze. My problem with that is heat. They're gas shocks. You don't want them exploding on you. That would be very detrimental. And freezing metal when it gets cold tends to snap, and I don't want to snap these bolts. They're probably pretty spendy a piece, so just liquid wrench or a PB blaster and a lot of torque is what it's going to take. So I'll see you back when I get it off. The bolt loosened up here. Took some force with that tire iron and a breaker bar, or cheater bar I guess you call it. This is the nut on the back. It's a little flange on there, so it doesn't need to be held while you're trying to loosen it. Makes it a lot easier. As you can see, bolt's free. Now we just need to get in there with a punch, because it's kind of awkward angle to really just try to pull it out. So I recommend getting down underneath here, right back in there. See the end of the bolt. Just get a screwdriver or really anything that'll fit in there. The flat end, you can hit it with a hammer and it'll just pop right out. As you can see, we got the shock out with the attachment on top. It took us a little bit. Started raining outside, so we had to call a break for a minute, but as you can see, we kind of did a number on the top of this thing here. However, we should be able to get a good grip on it now and get that nut spun off. Okay, here we have the new shock, bag of parts, and our upper mounting bracket. Okay, so I'll put you here. And what we'll do is we'll tear open our parts. We have rubber spacer, or garment, or grommet, as they're called. Another one. And you can see that this one's got a little bit wider of an edge than this one here does. I'll show you what that's for in a minute. Then a couple big washers and our top nut. So first, what you're going to do, this thing here, it's not of use anymore, so we're just going to cut it. Watch yourself, they will go flying. And as you can see, it is just naturally extending itself out. That's alright, it's not going to hurt anything, it's only going to go out to a certain point. So then, take one of them, put the indented side up, so it's facing down like that, sorry, like so. Then you have the big end, the little end. Okay, the big end is going to go on top on this one. Slide it down. And you're going to take this, insert it through like that, kind of rock it back and forth until that gets a nice seat on there. Okay, that big part that we put through, that's got to go through that hole. Then take this one, big part down, slip it on top. Take this guy, slip it on top, and you can just throw this on. Don't tighten it down or anything yet. You're going to torque it down, and you'll do that later. Okay, so nice and loose. That's all we need. I'll bring you over, and you're just going to set it right down in. Watch your hose. You're just going to drop it in. Come on the outside. And then rock it down in. You might have to lubricate a little bit. Might have to even spread those apart a little bit. Just do what you got to do to get that thing in there. I'm going to have to set you down. I'm going to need 2 hands to do it. And we'll be, when I bring it back, we should have this thing in there and ready to bolt it in. Alright, one thing you got to keep in mind too is, since this has fallen down so far, because there's nothing holding it up except the spring now, and even then that's not really holding it up, it's just kind of enough there. This is fully extended, so it's not going to reach down all the way to the bottom. So you got to secure these 3 bolts here, which we should have kept those 3 nuts. Here. And then you're just going to secure those back in there. And there's no torque spec on them, so just crank them down. Don't break them, but you want them on there good and tight. So now we got those 3 bolts on. Next thing you want to do is this nut here needs to be torqued down to specification. On the 96 Ram, and like I said, it should be the same for 94 through 2001 or 2002. Not exactly sure on that. It's going to be 30 foot-pounds. Now make sure you're using foot-pounds, not inch pounds, because that could be very, there's a big difference in that. So that's a 3/4 nut on this one. So I got my socket there on my torque wrench. And we're going to come down here. What's nice about the Monroe shocks is there's a nut right there to put a 3/4 inch wrench on. And you're just going to tighten that down to the torque specification. Whoops, remember, 30 foot-pounds for that. Alright, now that you have that torqued down, next thing you're going to do, and this is what worked really well for me, grab my blocks, but I used a jack to lift the arm up, or the axle, I guess you call it. Whichever word suits your fancy, but you're gonna get that on there. Get that lined up underneath there. Tighten that down. And you're just gonna lift. And that'll push that right down into place. Then you're gonna have your bolt and your nut with the flange on it. Crawl underneath the truck, and you should have a clear view to the other side. Now, if you can see it, there's still a little lip there. So all we're gonna do is push down on the jack and fill it in, and that works beautifully. And then you're just gonna wiggle that bolt all the way through to the other side. Maybe. And there we go. Then you're gonna come up, take your nut with the flange. There's actually a little window right there. Gives you clear access to the bolt. And you might have to kick the bolt back a little bit, but you're just going to put this right on there. Oops, sorry. I'm going to put that right on there, and then just tighten it down. Don't torque it, just tighten it down. Alright, so now we got the bolt tightened down all the way in there. It's not torqued, just tightened down. Next, you're going to leave your jack underneath there. You're actually going to need to lift it up a little bit more to get the tire on. Because you're going to torque it after you put the tire on. So we'll bring this up a little bit, lift that up, and I'll bring it back once I get the tire on. Alright, so now we got the tire on. Snugged up the lug nuts. We didn't torque them yet. Now we're just going to lower our jack slowly. Oh, almost forgot. We got to bring it back up. So we still have the jack stand holding it up. So as soon as that thing breaks free, we will pull it out. There we go. And then we'll loosen up the tire, or the jack. And make sure you do this slowly so it doesn't fall too hard. You don't want to damage anything. There we go. And she's down. And we'll bring out the jack. Grab our trusty torque wrench again. 7/8 socket for our lugs. Now for this truck, for a single wheel, 8 lug, the torque is 135 foot-pounds. Remember, that is a single wheel, not a dually, 8 lug. It's different for if you have a dually or a 5 lug. So make sure you check your specs on your specific truck. But we'll just go ahead and snug those up, and I'll get back to you when we're ready to finish up with the shock. Alright, here we are. Got our torque wrench with our 13/16 socket on the end of it. The lower mounting bolt for our brand new shock there. For this one, it is 100 foot-pounds is the specification. Make sure you do it to spec. Don't go off my truck, because your truck may be different. I'm not sure. So check the spec for your truck. And once we're done with this, we'll get back to you. There you have it. That is how you change the shocks on a 96 Dodge Ram.